Do you want to?
We can introduce
Oh, okay. Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Live with ASI, a month of knowledge production. My name is MK Smith.
And I'm Bassam Haddad. No, don't I say that?
30 seconds ago, Bassam specifically told me that I should speak those
No, but
first
should
lines.
I say I'm Bassam
I was
Haddad?
going to introduce you, but it's okay.
And I'm MK Smith. It's great, as always, to
Thank
be
you
here.
for changing the pitch of your voice to reflect mine. Anyways.
It's great, as always, to be here. We've got a great show lined up. But before we get to that, we want to welcome back an old friend. Let me bring her in.
A friend who we've known for a long time, not a friend who is old.
Hey, Nadya, how are you?
Hi, Nadya.
Hi, everyone. It's great to see you both. Great to be here.
Good to see you. How are you?
Good, good.
Where are you joining us from? Lebanon?
No, I'm in Doha.
Oh,
Well, welcome to Live with ASI, Nadya. You are the original G.
The original G.
no, that didn't do what you thought it did.
The OG. Well,
Should have just
basically,
gone with OG.
Nadya and I actually worked on the original show that we broadcast here at the Arab Studies Institute titled The Nerdiest Show on the Internet, which actually featured a books received review, a glorified books received list. And the show went through maybe a year and a half. And then we actually moved to LWA, which is a totally different kind of show. But we are happy that Nadya is joining us as a co-host. And I think this is going to be quite fun.
What could go wrong?
Famous last words.
Anyhow, Nadya, would you like to get us started?
Yes. So first off, we'll be discussing a few newly released books that are featured in our new Texts Out Now series, otherwise known as Newton. And these texts cover a wide range of subjects, including women's labor during the Lebanese Civil War, the war in Yemen, and a host of other topics.
Then we'll be speaking with Katty Alhayek, who might actually be a bit behind because she's having some technical difficulties, so we might switch things around. But we'll be speaking with her eventually about an episode of Flow podcast. I recently recorded with Katty, Omar, Basilius, and Rabia, and I'll talk more about this at that time. And the episode was about the aftermath of the earthquake, specifically in Syria, and the humanitarian crisis that has been unfolding as a result. After that, we'll welcome back Brahim El Guabli, who to give us the latest from the special series on Morocco in the 2022 World Cup.
We will then speak with status contributor Amir Marshi about the latest in the Emancipatory Dialogue series. Then we'll be on to Zeynep Gambetti about efforts at Istanbul's, pardon my pronunciation, Boğaziçi University to resist a takeover by the government. After that, our very own Mekarem Eljamal will join us with some updates about what's going on this month at the Middle East Studies Pedagogy Initiative, or MESPI. And as always, we'll offer you some must-read selections featuring some of the latest knowledge production at Jadaliyya. Let's get started.
So first, we're going to go over what's new in our new Texts Out Now series. There is, first of all, a fascinating interview with Michelle Hartman and Malik Abisab about their new book entitled Women's War Stories, the Lebanese Civil War, Women's Labor, and the Creative Arts. This book fills a lacuna in studies of women's labor in Lebanon, as well as in the social and gendered history of the Lebanese Civil War, which, of course, as most people know, took place between 1975 and 1990. There's also a Newton featuring Helen Lackner's Yemen in Crisis, in which she addresses the roots of the social and political conflict in Yemen, including the impact of the 2011 uprising. I think in addition to
That would
the
be your
Newton,
prompt.
I see where it says Bassam, but she
yeah, I can continue.
the last words are not what she said.
She's freestyling a little.
Oh,
Embrace
you're-
her creativity.
Oh, you're ad-libbing. Okay, awesome. You're improvising. Also, over at Newton, there is a discussion with Jacob Norris about his new book, The Lives and Deaths of Jubrail Dabdoub, which examines the history of global migration of the people of Bethlehem, Palestine. Lastly, we recommend Nora Derbal's charity in Saudi Arabia, civil society under authoritarianism. Definitely check all of those out in our news section.
Recently, Bassam spoke with a number of scholars and experts on the situation in northern Syria following last month's devastating earthquake. Among them was Katty Alhayek, an assistant professor at the School of Professional Communication at Toronto Metropolitan University in Canada, as well as my former visiting professor at Georgetown University's Center for Contemporary Arab Studies. So I'm biased and very excited to have Katty joining us today. Katty and others who joined Bassam on the Flow podcast discussed a number of issues that they are now happy to unpack a little bit more here with us today. Welcome, Katty. We will bring her
Katty.
in.
Hi, Katty.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for hosting me today.
So lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you too.
Katty, I am very excited to have you on, even though it's not an exciting topic. We discussed so much during the podcast. Can you share with us what you took from it and what you brought to it, and any thoughts you might have on the discussion, but also on what's happening today, if you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I think the podcast was important because it was within like a few days of the earthquake that happened. I think most of the panelists or all of us were Syrian, so we also shared a lot of like personal reflections on really what I can describe as unbelievable nightmares that we still like live its effect until today. But also there was some more structural analysis of the international and regional and local system and politics that actually failed Syrian and the whole region for the last years, and that the dealing with the earthquake, because there are things that you can control and things that you cannot control, and the things that the governments in Syria and Turkey can control, the response to the aid was hugely disappointing and depoliticizing. Politicized response that the Syrian regime again seems to be the winning political party from the tragedy of the people. So if someone is interested to revisit that podcast, they will see personal reflection and systematic analysis. I am personally, until now, cannot believe that these things are happening in Syria. People that I'm talking with, like my family, my friends, people have PTSD. Every day they feel the earth is shaking. Like my parents cannot sleep. There is a lot of misinformation happening, a lot of conspiracy theory, and people are still like living in huge fear, a huge trauma, huge PTSD, and they are expecting another earthquake without scientific research to support that. So this is also like a huge challenge to assure people sense of security and safety. And it's also like a challenge because really I think like on personal level, like when the war was very intense in Syria, you can like have some like political analysis, some like logic to like assure people, maybe like move from this region, like maybe like move to another more safe region or like leave the country. But currently, this crisis on top of multiple previous crises, you cannot also like give a logical explanation for people to assure them that they're gonna be safe. So this like really became a huge personal challenge, but also like on top of like the corruption, on top of the politicizing of the earthquake. But also, like, I want to like end on a hopeful note that and on Jadaliya Arabic and
Can
on
you look
Salon,
into this?
we covered a lot of the
Sorry.
response, like, more uh, activist response to the earthquake. So really, like, Syrian and their Arab communities from around the world, and even like international communities from around the world, there was a huge solidarity with what uh, the victims of the earthquake in Syria and Turkey. And you can see a lot of like the activism that started in the Arab Spring and in the Syrian context also was used and extended to the response to this event.
For that. Thank you for that in-depth description of the podcast, and for all of our viewers, it will be available to watch. It is already available to watch in completion online on jadaliya.com, and also will be featured in the episode digest to be published in the coming days. I do just want to ask one more question of you, Katty, which is, we are just now approaching the 1 month mark since the initial earthquake, I should say. How has the situation on the ground changed since then? And is there anything that folks who maybe were paying attention in the early days of the earthquake and its aftermath and need to be paying attention, should continue to be paying attention, but that should be aware of now with regards to the situation on the ground?
So I would say like the sense of fear, it's still like there. Like I think in terms of like aid and donation, because generally like people feel solidarity at the beginning of the event, then there is more compassion fatigue that we normalize crisis and the traumatic event, and then we stop like showing for the people that need us to support. um, like I was like talking or drawing from personal experience. Yesterday I was talking with my father, and he was like describing that like my parents and other people we know who were affected by the earthquake are still like noticing damages to buildings that they did not notice before. I know, for example, in Idlib, my uncle and my family from my mother's side are still living in tents, not like in their homes, because of the damage and the fear. So for our audiences, like, just keep informed and keep mobilizing effort and solidarity movement, because as we can like imagine, and I think in the podcast we also like compare it with what happened in Japan, which is like rich small country with a lot of support from international community. And when they had earthquake years ago, it took them like over 15 years to keep working on repairing and dealing with the aftermath of the earthquake. So you can imagine for um, the Syrian affected area, which was like suffering from long-term effect of the conflict, uh, um, on top of like, if we want to like have a class dimension, so who are the people who stayed in this area, especially the northwest? They're the most marginalized Syrian communities who weren't able to like have money to go to Europe, to go to like other safer destinations. So it's like single moms, people who were like suffering from war-related disability, war-related poverty, on top of the economic crisis that happening in the region, in Lebanon and Turkey. So I don't want to go to dark places, and I want like to conclude again with hope. There are a lot of activism and solidarity movement like happening to support the affected communities. So contributing and continue this support is what I want to conclude with.
Thank you, Katty.
Thank you very much, Katty, and I hope that we can host you again, because we've had you several times on the show under better circumstances. Best wishes to your friends and family, and to everyone's friends and family who have been affected by this horrible catastrophe and the aftermath, because the focus of the podcast was on the aftermath and the inadequate manner in which local, regional, and international institutions have dealt with the crisis and the problem. Thank you very much, Katty, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Salam.
See you soon.
Now, I'd like to welcome our next guest, our dear friend Brahim, who is a Moroccan scholar and assistant professor of Arabic studies at Williams University. In the wake of Morocco's thrilling World Cup run, he and some colleagues have begun a dossier of online articles on Morocco and football, as well as the social and political implications of the game in the region. If you tuned in last month, you would have heard a brief discussion on that, but today we are going to follow up and extend our conversation. He is here with us today to update us on the latest installment of the series. Welcome, Brahim.
Hi, Mary-Kate. Hi, Bassam. Nice to be with you again.
Ahlan, Brahim. You're becoming a regular guest on our show, and we are very happy that you are addressing something that mesmerized all of us a few months ago. Hopefully it would not be the last time this thing or this sort of thing happens. We know that over the years, over the decades, what we call B teams, and I know it's not a fair designation because they are awesome teams, but what we call teams that are not likely to win the World Cup and haven't for about 80 or some years, have actually increased their presence and performance, improved their performance, and have been able to reach higher and higher levels in the World Cup. So we are very excited that one of them right now is Morocco, and we would love for you to share with us a bit about the new series that you all put together, along yourself and Idris Jabari have published on Jadaliya, titled Beyond Specificity.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me again. And you're absolutely right that I think the achievements of Morocco during the World Cup in Qatar have opened the possibility for people to think that third-rate countries or teams can win the World Cup. And also, it really opened the people's eyes to the importance of thinking beyond what you're told is your kind of like your potential. So I think it's also about potential. It's about believing in oneself. It's about confidence. And I think what the Moroccan team and its achievements did is that it brought a new language and a new way of thinking about soccer and about the means. And it's really amazing to also think in the history of football in Morocco about the institutionalization and how the state deployed football in certain ways, and then how somebody who has the integrity of the coach, independence, critical perspectives can change the way people think about what's happening like in football. And I think that's the biggest takeaway here. For this series, so we asked several people, scholars who have very tight and intimate relationships to Morocco, to actually just reflect on how they felt, how they reacted, what they thought, and their emotions and their thoughts where they were watching the games and seeing the Moroccan team play in Qatar. And what we came up with is a really interesting thing, because in the first parts that you've seen already, like we have a Moroccan American talking about like her childhood, and then like just scholarly perspective, and then we have a Moroccan gender studies scholar who was talking about living in Fas and like looking at Zakia Salim, looking at that from the streets in Fas. And then we had the piece on Moroccan nationalism of the ultra-right in Morocco, and which is a really dangerous discourse that we see being spread under different names in social media, particularly Facebook, like isolationism and all of that. So I think we're taking this series as a way to educate about soccer and its implications, particularly in a place where this game is very popular, but probably where critical engagement with its implications is not as deep. Do you want me to say something about the next installment, or?
Sure. Why don't you go ahead? Because that actually is perfect with the follow-up question of what other interesting work can we expect to see from the dossier. So answer
Yeah.
that anyway.
And this question, Brahim, is coming to you from Doha, because Naya is now in Doha, and I think it has a
You just
different
said
flavor.
Naya is in Doha.
Did I say Naya?
Naya is
Naya-
upstairs.
Yeah.
Naya is not in Doha.
Naya is not in Doha. Naya is in Fairfax. نادية.
I wish I was in Doha.
بس يعني نادية إذا عم سميكي مثل اسم بنتي, this is a good thing. يعني
Nadya,
بحبك.
Nadya used to be my neighbor here, and
Oh, wallah?
she was at Smith, right, Nadya?
Long time ago, yes. Long time ago, yeah.
Wow.
And
Like
Nadia,
just like 75 minutes away from me.
Yeah.
and Nadia alerted us to something that we made a mistake in, and that is the name. It's Williams College, not university, correct?
Yes.
I think we have.
We made our own school.
Yeah, we created our own
It's
university.
tenure track. All are welcome.
Brahim is a university unto himself anyway, so.
Free for Arabs and
Well, thank
Amazigh,
you.
given the topic.
I actually didn't pay attention, so you're fine. Yeah, I think what you're expecting is that we have several articles about some hot issues in the region and how they implicate soccer, and we have sociologists talking about the sociology of football. And I think we're also going to seek a piece to reflect on the racial tensions in Tunisia right now, and just kind of like reflect through the experience of Morocco, like how soccer brought Africa together for like a really intense moment. And now what we see with this racial discord that started in Tunisia, like the implications of that and how people are thinking. And they think, and I actually think that Jadaliya should dedicate a full issue to that, just to because it has a lot of implications.
Amazing. Anything else that you'd like to bring up as part of this series, Rahim?
So yeah, absolutely. I think Idris and I are talking about kind of like broadening the contributors and just kind of like reaching a little bit into the diaspora, particularly in Europe. And why not probably also invite some people from the Middle East to share their experiences about like what they felt and thought when Morocco was playing in Qatar. And that would be a very nice moment to also bring all the debates that happened during the World Cup together and kind of like learn from them. Know that we have a few months distance. Like Nadya is a historian, so time for her is different from like the way we, right? But I think 4 months is enough now for people to kind of like reflect a little bit more and be more critical about certain things. And we hope to, and it's terrific that Jadaliya is doing this, and we can't thank you enough for it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Brahim, for joining us, for continuing to fill us in on all the exciting new articles that are part of this series. And of course, because it is a series and because we love having you on the show, we will have you back next month, inshallah. We'll see.
Absolutely. And probably some of the contributors will work on that.
Actually, we would love to speak with the contributors, and thank you again, Brahim, for not only this series, but for your continuous work over the years of producing material that crosses over between the region and the outside world in both languages. So شكرا كثير.
العفو يا عزيزي, شكرا جزيلا.
حبيبي. سلام.
Bye.
All right, now we're going to switch over to Matters of Status Al-Wada, our audio-visual magazine.
So yes, we're going to be talking a bit about what's going on at the Status audio magazine. Emancipatory Dialogues is a series at Status, which consists of dialogues that take place between researchers who deal with the Palestinian experience in the academic context across several research fields. We are going to be joined by Amir Marshi, who is a student activist and researcher from Nazareth and a contributor to the series. Welcome, Amir. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for joining us. Amir, we know that Emancipatory Dialogues has published a few episodes in the latest issue of Status. Can you tell our audience a little bit about what is covered in these episodes?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, I wanted to first just point out that this is an episode that this is series that's worked on by various young Palestinian scholars who are preoccupied with the idea of independent Palestinian knowledge production, critical knowledge production, and the transformation of Palestine from a case study into a site of critical knowledge production. So the different people that we are interviewing who are radical scholars who come from very different disciplinary backgrounds kind of exemplify that trajectory in their work, in their life's work, and in their ideas. And we, chose five scholars that range from people who work in theology, like Reverend Mitri Raheb, to photography with Assam Nassar, gender studies with Aziz Ansar, political philosophy with Abdel Sattar Al Qasim, Allah yarhamu, he died a few months after we interviewed him. And throughout we are asking similar questions. The beginning from the simple question: how do we research Palestine really? And this comes from a common experience that we have as Palestinians, and specifically Palestinians who studied in Israeli universities as Palestinians in '48, who never really learned about Palestine in the academic space. We always had to do that individual effort, but also when we do that, we always encounter Palestine as a case study. So the program is in Arabic, is in colloquial Arabic, because we hope to make that accessible to people like us who did not have that chance, and to archive it in one space to sort of hopefully build something similar or close to a canon where we can have this different ideas be put in conversation with each other. I can't hear you.
One second. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Amir, I just want to say that I am very excited about having you on. I remember, first of all, it's great to see you finally, because we have been connecting on email for many, many months. And we are proud to be hosting your podcast, you and your colleagues. And we hope that this relationship continues. And I just, frankly, I'm not in the script. I just wanted to say it's great to speak with you, and very happy about our collaboration, and look forward to many more contributions. Unfortunately, the situation is such that we will probably hear from you quite a bit in the coming months, given the problems and the escalating issues that are taking place in Palestine. بس هيك بدي أقول لك شكرا كتير.
Thank you very much for hosting us, because we wouldn't have a space to actually produce this podcast without the wonderful platform of Jadaliya and your hospitality.
Habibi. And before you leave, I would like to bring in our colleague and co-host at large, Mouin Rabbani, who is also going to be addressing what is going on today in Palestine, given that the past few days have seen some horrific developments. And Mouin, this is Amir. He hosts, along with his colleagues, a podcast on status. What was the final name of the podcast? تهشي تحرري. حوار تحرري. Excellent.
Hi, everyone.
Amir, you feel free to stay on the call, and if you would like to add anything to what Mouin shares. Mouin, it's all you.
Hi, everyone. So, I was asked to speak about recent developments. And I think before saying so, it's important to point out that the past year has, in fact, seen the most violent Israeli repression in the occupied territories, or in the West Bank specifically. Gaza is, of course, a different matter in many, many years, more or less since the conclusion of the Second Intifada, and under what was often viewed as a centrist, more liberal Israeli government. Over 250 Palestinians, most of them civilians, were shot dead by the Israeli military last year. What we've seen in the past month is, I think, accurately described as a change in scale and intensity, rather than a change in the nature of Israeli repression and violence in the West Bank. This, of course, comes paired with the resumption of power of Israel's longest serving prime minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, this time with a substantially more extreme government than his previous ones, which were characterized correctly at the time, each time as the most extreme government in Israel's history. And what we've seen is a combination of murderous Israeli raids into various areas of the West Bank, particularly in the north, in Nablus and Jenin refugee camps, and the surrounding towns and villages, including one raid which resulted in the killing of 11 people in Nablus last week. And I think the other important development to point out is that Israeli settlers, who have always functioned as a kind of auxiliary militia to the Israeli military, are now in effect formalizing that rule by carrying out a massive raid in the town of Hawara, which dominates a southern approach to Nablus in the northern West Bank, effectively acting under full Israeli army protection, and went on a rampage that even the former Speaker of the Israeli Parliament, Avram Burg, described as a pogrom, in which they killed one, wounded dozens, burned numerous cars and homes. And one can only imagine what the response of the Israeli military would have been had Palestinians been rampaging through an Israeli settlement. It would have been immediately suppressed. But in this case, it went on for many hours and has, in fact, um, been followed by further such settler army assisted rampages, most recently in the village of Burin in the northern West Bank. And tellingly, also, Israeli office holders are now saying it out loud. So you have the Israeli finance minister, who also has a measure of control over the Israeli defense establishment, basically calling for the village of Hawara to be burnt down to the ground. And looking at the international response, it's basically been one of, nothing particularly important to see here. You did have the White House spokesman denouncing these calls, and then promptly assuring that the Israeli finance minister Smotrich would be issued with a visa to visit the United States in the coming days.
Amir, are there any reverberations from your end on what's been happening in the West Bank?
I don't have anything to add more to what Maureen has said in terms of the events that have been happening. Although I would say that on the level of organizing, it's always you always have to be ready to counter and react to every single event that's happening. Becomes more and more difficult. In 48, where I come from, and where I'm always like in contact with people there, I had never imagined in my life that it would be illegal to raise the Palestinian flag, but that is actually happening now. So solidarity is becoming even harder and harder. And we don't call it solidarity there. It's just us standing with our people and strengthening them. And that is becoming more repressed. I can speak also from my position here in Chicago, where there's a huge Palestinian community, a huge Palestinian organizing community. We have had weekly protest on campus, on outside campus downtown, and the work still goes on, but it's seemingly harder and harder to build up hope as this government is becoming more fascist, more Nazi-like, and the world's attention is even decreasing rather than increasing in many ways.
Thank you.
Well, if I could just add one point to that, I think it's entirely correct. And also, the repression of Palestinians within the Green Line has, of course, also been expanding exponentially. And they are, in many ways, also the primary target of Israel's extreme right government. But it's also important, I think, to look at the international response. While Palestinians are being shot dead left and right, again, primarily civilians, international attention has been focused on maintaining the independence of Israel's Supreme Court. In other words, maintaining what is erroneously referred to as Israel as a Jewish democracy, and forgetting very much that it is, in fact, this Israeli Supreme Court which, over the decades, has been absolutely instrumental in validating Israeli illegal
Hmm.
policies in the occupied territories and in ensuring the impunity of not only formal agents of the Israeli state, like its soldiers, but also enabling the entire settler enterprise, which ultimately produced events like we saw in Hawara and Burin in recent days.
That's an excellent
Yes,
point. Thank you, Moon.
if I could add to that, actually, a lot of attempts have been made by these factions that are protesting in Tel Aviv or other places to sort of like co-opt now. That now they want to represent themselves as the people who are here to revolt against the government and wanting to, co-opt the Palestinian cause, or even at least like the Palestinians inside the Green Lines cause. And I think one thing that's good to see is that across the line, across the different political differences in 48, all Palestinians are rejecting that because obviously, as you said, Mouin, the Supreme Court is the hand of colonization, of occupation. It is the main way in which our homes and our lands have been stolen. So that's a positive thing to look at from the Palestinian side, at least.
Yeah, fully
Thank you
agree.
both. Thank you both so much. This has been actually quite eye-opening, and we hope to have you both back. Mu'in, Inta, you're stuck with us because you're going to be joining us more frequently as a co-host. So I hope we speak with you under different circumstances. I can be optimistic and say better, but I'm also
Also a
realistic.
realist, yeah.
Yeah. Shukran, Amir. We will see you soon. And Mu'in, you can hang out if you like. Salam. مع
See you.
السلامة.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
All right.
Now, okay, we would like to, let's see, what do we want to cover next? You tell me.
I think we should highlight some interesting work
You know
published in
what
Jadaliyya.
I think we should do actually is an interlude.
Oh my God, here we go.
I thought the interlude would give me enough time to get to the right point in the script, and it did not. Hold, please.
Okay, well, we actually, I'm glad you said that because we do need to feature ASJ, the Arab Studies Journal.
Everyone, keep going. Where we go? Okay, I would love, awesome. I think, what other academic journals have cool little video promotions? Don't answer that.
Exactly.
There could be others, but in my mind, it's just ASJ. Anyhow, who's making them?
Whose fingers are those in the ASJ interlude?
It's a really good question. I don't have an answer
We
for
actually
you.
bought fingers.
We did, actually. We literally pay a subscription.
Oh, they're bought. We bought them, so we have them.
Subscription for fingers.
We have stock fingers now.
Oh, Nadya, wait a minute. I should bring you
Yeah,
in.
bring her on instead of her just kind of flip. Actually, can everyone hear her or just us? No, everyone can hear her.
Everybody
Okay.
can hear Nadya.
Oh, hello to our furry friend.
Oh, something. Okay, that was I thought for a moment I was scared, not because it was like somebody in. I thought you had an actual professional mic coming down, and I'm like, Nadya, that's
They're
impossible.
doing a docu-series on
Turns out
Nadya's
to be
life
the
in
cat.
Doha, actually. Anyhow, we want to take some time now to highlight some interesting work published recently in Jadaliyya. Dina Hadad is a specialist in international law with firsthand knowledge of the socio-legal political complexities of the Arab world. She recorded a lecture for Jadaliyya which addresses socio-legal changes with regards to women's rights in Syria specifically. It is absolutely a must-watch.
Yeah, and in addition to that, there's a piece that everyone absolutely needs to check out, written by PhD candidate and researcher Amin Barzeghian. It's entitled "Revolutionaries Without Revolution: The Unfolding Case of Iran." and his piece examines the protests of Iran in the context of the global neoliberal order.
Bassam will now share with us another piece.
Staying with Jadaliya, we are now going to bring in Zeynep Gambetti, who, along with some colleagues, wrote a piece titled Bogazici University, 2 Years of Resisting Takeover by the Turkish Government, which details the struggle for academic freedom at the university in Istanbul. Zeynep is a retired professor in the Political Science and International Relations Department at the university. She now joined us. Let me bring her in. Hello, Zeynep.
Hello.
Great to
Hi,
have
Zeynep.
you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Zeynep, can you tell us what compelled you and the others to write this piece?
Yes, well, actually, we've been writing pieces in Jadaliya, and I would like to extend my really gratitude to Jadaliya for actually being interested in WASG for some time now. This piece was about the resistance of Boğaziçi that has now entered its 3rd year. And I believe, honestly, and I haven't done any research on this, obviously, but I think this is the longest lasting protest in academic history. We have been protesting for 2 full years now, 26 months exactly, against the government takeover of the university, by appointing a top-down appointment of a rector against the will, defying the will of the faculty, in what was sort of like the follow-up to the ruling party AKP's intention to take over universities all over Turkey. I mean, just a brief history of this move is that the government has been cracking down on universities and interfering in the mechanisms of the election of the rector since 2015-16. When it turned from soft totalitarian to hard totalitarian, in my colleague Cihan Tugal's words. Following the Kurdish uprising in southeastern Turkey, thousands of academics had signed a petition to halt the massacre of civilians in southeast Turkey, in big cities like Diyarbakir, Mardin, Shirnak, which actually was then became the excuse for a witch hunt at universities. These academics who signed the petition in 2016 were pursued legally. I was one of them. But the real blow to the university system in Turkey came in July with a failed coup attempt against the AKP government, after which more than 4,000 academics were purged from the universities. Hundreds of colleagues are in exile abroad now. And Boğaziçi University, which is a prestigious university with an American missionary background, actually, and with an English language education, sort of founded in the same years as AUB and the American University of Cairo, was the last actually university to remain relatively untouched by this move by the government to suppress all universities and appoint acolyte rectors in place of merit-based appointments or elections for rectorship. Boğaziçi was the last to be touched, and indeed, in 1st of January, that was just after New Year's Eve, which is part of a shock and awe tactic that this government uses. In 2021, at 1st of January at midnight, we heard that a new rector was appointed to the university against our will. And since then, faculty have been resisting nonstop. And so this piece was sort of talking about how what tactics the government used in the first year, and then the shift in tactics strategies in the second year of resistance. And we'll see what happens this year, especially after this earthquake that actually has shaken the credibility of the government, but that is putting us in a situation in which we are beginning the spring semester without students, because the AKP, instead of managing rescue efforts, relief efforts, has been preoccupied in sort of managing the political consequences of the earthquake and upholding the image of omnipotence. And the solution it found to the problem of where to place university students from the affected zones, the solution it found was to close down campuses and decree that all universities should go online. And so this spring, we're beginning the semester online. And of course, it's a very convenient tactic in order to keep students off campuses so that there won't be any more protests against the AKP.
Zeynep, there's so many questions that can be asked, but maybe if we can zoom out and just ask, sort of based on what you just laid out, what in your view does this portend for both sort of academic freedom and academic expression, and also just the quality of education that could be offered at universities moving into the future?
Yes, I mean, the quality of education and the quality of academic research have been decreasing because very quality academics have left the country, and those who remain are not even allowed to hold conferences, say, in sensitive issues like gender or the Kurdish question. There was a course to be opened at the summer school at Boğaziçi this year called Gender and Politics in the Middle East. And we were told that that course would not be opened. We were not given any reason. So the Acolyte administration just decides who can teach what and what conferences you can hold. And I can say there is, of course, understandably, a lot of self-censorship among academics, because this is somewhat of a witch hunt. Those who defy administrations or who defy government sort of bans either get punishments, administrative punishments, or, I mean, the scala is from administrative punishment to demotion to imprisonment. And so there is an atmosphere of fear. And I have to say that Boğaziçi, unfortunately, is the only university resisting at the moment. Boğaziçi is quite a liberal university. It's sort of modeled after the American Liberal College. And it was not considered the most political, the most vocal of universities in Turkey. But it has turned out that colleagues elsewhere have been silenced. And are not given funding for research that is considered sensitive, which, of course, as you know, any issue could become sensitive tomorrow. We can wake up, there's another ban happening, and of course, this is affecting the quality of education and the relationships we're having with our students, our capacity to carry out research, our capacity to teach what we believe in. And there has been a massive brain drain, unfortunately, since 2016. And so in terms of academic freedom, but also in terms of quality independent research, there is a huge gap now in Turkey. And I think the earthquake has shown us how this may affect lives, actually. How the silencing of independent research, not only in seismology or housing or urban development, but also in agricultural production, in the sociology of the population, in the politics, etc. How the government's silencing of independent research and its total disrespect for scientists, total disrespect for science, has caused has taken the lives of more than 50,000 people. And so we're seeing, I mean, this earthquake was actually terribly eye-opening in showing why academic freedom is not just a matter of, it's not just a political right or an intellectual right. It concerns livelihoods and life quality, right? And maybe, I don't know if you talked about this earlier in elsewhere, but one of the seismologists who was very vocal also during the earthquake was taken under custody, for instance, because he kept asking, where is the state? Where is the state? Why is the state so slow and chaotic in responding to such a huge natural disaster? And we know why. We know that top-down appointments of acolytes instead of merit-based appointments to key offices is hollowing out public institutions and the state's capacity to protect lives in Turkey.
Mm-hmm. Zeynep, thank you so much for this incredible and very sobering overview. And we all send you and the rest of our colleagues at Bozici all solidarity and support. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We apologize for a typo on the screen, which somehow Iran got into the Turkey text, so we apologize about that.
Bassam, do you want to run the must be interlude before we bring Mekarem on?
I think we need an interlude after this report. We also would like to feature more on Turkey and the earthquake. Understandably, a lot of the people that we would like to hear from have been having a difficult time, and sometimes, often actually, not ready to produce knowledge on what's happening because of the freshness of the calamity. Before we bring on Mekarem, the coordinator or managing editor of Middle East Studies Pedagogy Initiative, we're going to do a bit of a promo on MESPI. 27.
Our penultimate guest of the day is our very own Mekarem Eljamal, who is the associate editor of the Middle East Studies Pedagogy Initiative. Welcome, Mekarem.
Hello. Thanks for having me on.
Hi, Mekarem. We haven't seen you for a while.
So good to see you.
I know.
Everybody wants to talk to you. That's why everybody's talking to you at once.
Everyone take advantage of this opportunity. Ask all your pressing questions.
It was fun to see the little promo. I feel like I haven't seen it in a while since I haven't been on LWA for a long time.
yeah, we actually wanted to have you on because of that, but also because we are likely to have a lot of material going forward. I know next month is going to be busy, one for MESPI. Can you give, and then MK is not moving the
I'm
teleprompter.
trying. Where's my mouse? There it is.
It's
Sorry.
right there. Yeah.
There we go.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
that's
That was
what I
literally it. Can you give us a preview?
Can you give us a preview of what we're likely to see at MESPI next month?
Yeah, our big item coming out from ESPE next month is a publishers roundtable that Jonathan Adler, our coordinator of the Engaging Books module, is putting together. So this roundtable, which is going to be featuring AUC Press, Georgetown, Saki Books, as well as University of Texas Press, is going to be looking at the different themes that Middle East Studies publishing has encountered recently, the impact of COVID on these publishers and how they're producing different materials, as well as kind of looking towards the future of what are they hoping to see coming out of publishing for Middle East Studies. So we're hoping to have both written and a video round table to talk about this, which is really exciting. And this will most likely be the first installment of many. So future publisher roundtables are going to be coming out as we go on through the year. We'll also be continuing the kind of installments of our peer-reviewed articles review, as well as kicking off new bouquets from the Essential Readings team. So we're looking at ones on war ecology and the political economy of the Middle East. So lots of stuff coming out. And we hope to kind of continue the momentum as the year continues.
Woohoo! Well, we can't wait to see all the exciting stuff that comes out of MESPI. I mean, it's always awesome to check. Where? There. I'm directionally. I have issues. Makaram knows I don't understand directions.
You're not wearing shoes.
I know. There's a lot going on.
Don't say that. Don't say it.
I was proposed marriage 10 minutes before this show started today, so I'm a little flustered.
Yeah, but it was like an eligible Uber driver.
It was an eligible Moroccan Uber driver.
Who offered his whole car.
He offered me his Audi as Maher.
That's...
yeah.
I wish.
So,
yeah.
And I know my grandfather is watching this. I did not say yes. Okay. Anyhow, Mekarem, it is so nice to see you. And we are all very much looking forward to seeing all that MESPI has coming down the barrel. I don't like that analogy. All that's coming up from MESPI. And it's so nice to see you. And a shout out to Mekarem for just being the best managing editor in the world.
Absolutely.
At anything ever.
Absolutely. I think, I don't know where you're going with all of that.
I didn't either. I started the sentence with no idea where it was ending.
Thank you, Mekarem, for joining us. And we really look forward to more of what's happening at MESPI, especially that we are going to begin rolling out our teaching modules in 2023, starting with the environment teaching module. And we will have you on again, even though we know that you're really busy these days. Doing your
getting a PhD
at Columbia. Excuse me.
We'll always make time for LWA.
Wow.
So
oh my God. Look at that.
So humble, true to her roots.
It was exciting.
That is so sweet. Nadia, would you like to ask Mekarem anything? Because she's always smiling and we need smiling faces on our screens.
I just want to say to Mekarem that I can't wait to see her in a few days. So there.
I know.
Oh
yeah, she's going to Doha.
So
oh,
why is
so
everybody
jealous.
going to Doha?
Everyone and their mother is in Doha this month.
Wasn't Shireen there recently? That's not.
It's the next place to be. So I'm just going to throw that out.
There's so many conferences going on this month in Doha.
All right. Well, we'll hear a report about it. Thank you both so much.
Take pictures together and send them to the
Mekarem, we'll see you
chat.
soon. Are you saying something?
I said take pictures together and send them to the group chat.
Absolutely. Mekarem, see you soon, Habibti. Salam
Love you,
alaikum.
bye. Okay. As usual. Actually, before we get to our
Before we get to our as usual, I would like to share that Dina Hadad, who is not related, I mean, I'll be proud, but she's not related, sent us a video, a summary of her talk on the question, on her topic lecture that she gave at George Mason University that has to do with Syrian women and the law. I will actually be playing the video right now, so here we go. That's Dina Hadad.
My talk provided a reading into the role of women in normative development in Syria, in today's Syria. this really brought about discussions over socio-legal and socio-political sort of structures that reproduce the dynamic of minorities and the relation with the state as the party that is concerned with making the law. The study adopted qualitative research, conducted interviews with women legal professionals and their reading of their own role before and after 2011. This highlighted a number of elements, including issues related to a new scale of development and economic sort of hardship, and women's ability to produce or prevent specific sort of legal development that may not actually serve their own agenda as a legal professional involved in lawmaking and so on. Of course, the reality of the conflict is one of the main issues that did really call the reconsideration of a number of theoretical and empirical elements in the study of women within a specific area and specific exceptional reality or reality of a crisis, and further highlighted the possibility of remaining stuck in a structure that does really create more and more issues of securities, maybe beyond the
Okay, well, I'm glad that we were able to
One
have...
second.
Okay,
We don't have...
bring it back. What are you looking for?
I think we lost the connection somehow.
No, that was the whole video.
That was it?
Yeah, it literally said like 20 seconds left, and I said that's why I got hit publish because
All right,
yeah,
there we go.
I believe. Anyhow, glad that we were able to have Dina, albeit a pre-recorded video, be able to discuss her work in her own words.
Absolutely.
As is always important. Now, as usual, we will end with a couple of must-read recommendations, both from our New Texts Out Now series, which is where we began the show with Nadya.
Amal Sashidina is a research associate and lecturer at the Department
of Near...
You scrolled up
I
too
scrolled
much
too
now,
far, I'm
yeah.
so sorry. No, I'm scrolling the wrong way.
Nadia's like, oh, I can...
Nadya's like, get me out.
No, Nadia's like, I can totally do this if that's how it runs. Amal Sashidina is a research associate and lecturer at the Department of Near Eastern Studies, Princeton University. She has written a book called Cultivating the Past, Living Modern, The Politics of Time and the Sultanate of Oman, on the development of a country which is all too often overlooked in Middle East studies. She spoke about it with Jadaliya.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate how exciting that is, because Bassam and I were saying the other day how when he mentioned, or Abdullah, our producer, mentioned that there was going to be a piece on Oman, I was like, what? When?
Everybody got excited.
Because it is often overlooked.
Oman, Yemen, Mauritania, Somalia and Sudan get us very excited because for some reason, I mean, not for some reason, we know some of the reasons.
For some reason that no one can
They're
imagine.
not addressed as much. Why do you think, Nadya, given you're a historian, why do you think there are countries that we don't hear much about? Is this just their geopolitical and resource, poor gravity, or what could it be? Or did I just give the
How
answer?
very rentier state theory of you.
Yeah. No, I think it's mostly to do with the accessibility to researchers and the ways in which,
Mostly?
the ways in which knowledge production creates and sort of replicates these particular kinds of genealogy, whereby as more information and more knowledge is produced about other areas, that sort of encourages people to continue that research, and it really takes someone to sort of break that cycle and decide to do research on a place and be able to access that place.
Well, that definitely
makes
plays
sense.
a big role. Also, Mauritania, I mean, in terms of like the extent to which people are going to be, tuning in, questions regarding some of these countries are actually less in the public eye. But we're
I'm
very
honestly
excited.
surprised that Mauritania isn't covered more, only because the Arabic spoken in Mauritania, isn't it one of the closest forms to Fusha of like a dialect? So I'm surprised that more...
That's not usually a criterion, though.
No, but I mean for like Westerners who like are only ever learning Fusha, like, and you're looking for a space to speak it. Anyhow. Another new text out now.
You're just like trying to bring up that you know this factoid, which not a lot of people know.
What?
This thing about the closeness to Fusha. There's a debate in the region about who is actually closest to Fusha. I don't know what's the nature of the debate.
Is that a medal anyone wants to win? I don't know.
By the way, we have lights that are off.
By the way, we have one more thing to cover. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Another new text out now that we'd like to mention is one by Jadalia's own Maryam Davis. I mean, she's not ours, but like we work with her closely and we appreciate her and all of her scholarship. Her new text, Markets of Civilization, Islam and Racial Capitalism in Algeria. The book sprung from Maryam's PhD dissertation, which was focused on late colonial development in Algeria. It tackles the relationship between economic development, decolonization, and Islam. Make sure to read both of those conversations and New Text Out Now interviews, and then subsequently pick up the books to read them in full. And that brings us to the end of our show covering the month of knowledge production in February.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much. Please be sure to check out the episode digest on Jadaliya later this week for links to all the content we covered today. Thank you to all our guests and viewers. And a huge thank you to Nadya for joining us today. We will see you next month for episode 3.7, where we will be covering the month of March. Again, Nadya, we would like to say thank you so much for joining us. And I would like to also put on screen something else that I'd like to say, and that is a big welcome to our new producer, Abdullah Tafish, who is with us today.
Wait.
And no, it's okay.
I was going to try and turn the camera.
Well, he said he doesn't want it. Yeah. You're so sweet, very nice. But he's like, he didn't shower it. No, I'm joking. But I really would like to appreciate. I would like to thank Abdullah for being our new producer, and we were not able to change the credits in time, but I would like to recognize him. Shukran كتير Nadya. Thank you all for being here. We are now going to actually run the credits. We will see you next month.
Should I describe Abdullah?
Good. During the
he is wearing a maroon crew neck, I would say adequately sized. It reads Deep Creek Lake, Maryland. I don't know if that's a real place, established in 1925. It has the California bear on it.
I think he looks great.
Which is interesting.
I don't know why he's like, yeah.
He's got some black jeans, some brown loafers with a fun pattern on them.
I think it's really fun.
Yeah.
Nadya, are you still there? How come you're still there?
Wait, hit finish and then we can talk to Nadya.
يلا خليكي معنا. السلام عليكم.